Welcome to the Impact Maker's Journey from Passion to Profits, the podcast showcasing heart-centered coaches, experts, and energy healers who are on a mission to change lives and create meaningful success doing what they love. I'm your host, Wendy Vaughn, business success coach and founder of Impact Maker Coaching. And I've got to be honest, the path from passion to profits is rarely easy, but it's always filled with growth, clarity, and surprising rewards. Now, each week I sit down with inspiring impact makers who have turned their knowledge and wisdom into thriving businesses that are making a meaningful difference for others. And we'll explore their personal and professional journeys, how they found their calling, and how they continue to stay aligned with their passion along the way. So if you're here to expand your vision about what's possible for yourself, you're in the right place. So join me as we discover the positive ripple effects created by today's guest. All right, well, I have as my guest today, Javier Lomeli. Now, Javier is a strategic growth coach, and small business owners and growth-minded leaders hire Javier to help them improve the quality of their personal and professional productivity. So welcome, Javier. I am so excited to have you as my guest today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
And I truly love how you're helping people who have, a lot of demands on their time, but they're seeking more. They're seeking more success. They're seeking, they have a vision for themselves, but they keep possibly getting in their own way and not able to create that sense of momentum and forward progress. So I just love how you're really helping them to laser in and create that momentum. So when did you become a professional coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I like the word you use, laser, because I think that really does describe the contrast between what people are typically doing and what I try to get them to. And I use the comparison of a laser versus a flashlight, right? And so you have a flashlight. It also lightens a room, but it's kind of why you're not going to go through the wall, right? But if we can shift that to unify your focus and unify your intentionality, where it looks more like a laser, then you can go through walls. Then you can do some really next level damage, so to speak. So I really love that metaphor that you used. As far as when I got started as a coach, I've been coaching professionally for a little over 10 years. Now, before that, I had been coaching people for about 5 years within the nonprofit sector. In a leadership position there. And so at some point, I decided, okay, through a variety of circumstances that I'm sure we'll get into to some extent, I can maybe turn this into a business. What would it look like for me to be able to help the people live out my passion and also make a living from it? And that's been the journey ever since. It's ups and downs and in betweens, but it's been very rewarding overall.
Yeah, and I think you said it really well in terms of I was working and doing a lot of the same work, but I realized I could possibly be serving in a different way or a more impactful way that also brought me a sense of fulfillment. So, and it takes courage, right? Courage, tenacity, and even a certain agility to turn those skills, knowledge, and wisdom into a your own professional service, as well as a business. So tell me a little bit more about your journey. I hear that you were working in a nonprofit sector.
Yes.
And then what was that catalyst, or what did you see? What was the opportunity, or where was the gap? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So from my early 20s, I knew I wanted to do something to help people get from point A to point B in their growth process. And I remember that moment I was sitting at my computer trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I had planned to go to do the pre-med route. I was going to be a forensic pathologist, and just realized I didn't want to be in school for 13 years. And so some people love it, not my thing. And so I started to think, well, what has God gifted me with? What has he given me to be able to give to the world, to serve? And it just hit me one day. I want to help people get from point A to point B in their growth process. I didn't really know much more about it than just that. But from that point, I worked to build that. When I was probably around 25, 27, and I had a really bad accident. I fell through a roof about 17 and a half feet onto a solid concrete floor. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, did some major damage to my face. I tell people and talks that I give. Before my fall, I looked like Brad Pitt, so that tells you the level of damage that I got. But it was pretty rough, and thank God it wasn't worse. But it was severe facial trauma, and I had to be on a couch for about 30 days. Couldn't do much. Had to eat through a straw, and had a lot of time to think about where I was going. And what I realized is that my original mission, vision of wanting to help people had grown cold. I had lost sight of that. I had gotten consumed with the other aspects of life,
Mm.
all valid things that I needed to pay attention to, all part of my responsibility, but I'd kind of put the passion on the back burner. And that moment gave me an opportunity to really realize that I may not have tomorrow,
Mm.
that I assume that I'll be here next week and next month and next year.
Right.
And if there's anything these past few years have shown us, it's that that might not be the case. And if you
Absolutely.
really want to make the best difference that you can, I believe that having that kind of perception, that kind of idea about how life works is a powerful shift. And so for me, it really helped to clarify, okay, let's do this. How are we going to make this happen? How are we going to work towards it? And
Hmm.
came across coaching. I'd been aware of coaching, obviously, up to that point, and but started to consider it as a profession from that experience, and kind of started to build it from there. So got certified through the AACC as an advanced level life coach with an emphasis in leadership and executive coaching, and started to look for clients and kind of figure that whole puzzle out. But that was
Interesting.
really the catalyst that got me onto that shift from where I kind of already was, but it just gave new life to that.
Yeah, it gave you a whole new perspective, it sounds like. It
Mhm.
just really
Absolutely.
crystallized your priorities, your values, and the difference that you know that you can make or knew at that
Hmm.
point that, I'm spending time, I'm doing what I'm doing, but wow, life is not all that predictable. So yeah,
Exactly.
that is a very inspiring story, and so thankful
Thank you.
that it was everything was repairable because
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah, me too.
that's a significant fall, and
Yeah.
you were able to resume life in a normal, way with all functionality. So yeah, that's obvious that it was a miracle. So,
Amen. Thank you so much.
what I know you sort of wove this in a little bit to your response, but is there something deep down that inspires you to do this work?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a Christian. I have put my faith in Christ, and that's where my hope lies. And ultimately, everything in my life comes from that place. And so I believe God has given me a calling. I believe He's given me a path and a vision. And how that plays out, how that looks, is based on how strongly, how fervently I believe that to be the truth that I need to live by day after day. And so that's really the deepest place that I operate from. In every area, and it's no less with my area of profession. And so I think when I wake up and I think, how am I going to do this, or what does it look like to pursue this? I'm immediately reminded of the fact that my calling comes from a higher place. My calling comes from a deeper place. And that
Mhm.
really gives me that strength. That really gives me that drive to move through some very difficult moments at times.
Yeah, that's a really interesting um, perspective in terms of it's bigger than you.
Mm,
You have a bigger purpose. Obviously, it comes down to you need to provide for yourself, your family, create a lifestyle that is
mhm.
supportive of you. But what I'm hearing is that you know that through your hands, through your wisdom, through your messaging, you're conducting a bigger service here.
Absolutely. I love that word conducting too, because it does feel like an orchestra at times, just everything coming in at once. And you've got to sort of
Yeah,
figure out, okay, how are we going to streamline this into an actionable next step? So
right.
I love that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And helping people to achieve new levels of success in their lives, new productivity, new mm, innovations, whatever it is that they're striving for, um, like I mentioned, does create that ripple effect. And one of my mentors early in my
mm,
career was Mark Victor Hansen, the
oh, that's awesome.
co-author of Chicken Soup for the
Oh, yeah.
Soul. And one
Hmm.
of the most significant, I mean, he's taught me so much, but one of the biggest things that I carried from him is his idea of needing to have this big, what he called a BHAG, big,
Mm,
hairy,
yep.
audacious goal.
Oh yeah.
something that fuels your passion and helps you to overcome those barriers. So that's kind of what I'm hearing in terms of being divinely inspired and led through your, your spiritual purpose. So is that, can you reflect a little bit more on maybe what you envision for your business or
Absolutely,
yourself?
yeah, absolutely. It's much bigger than me, infinitely bigger than me, but it also includes me. And so that's kind of the contrast or the sometimes seemingly paradox that I work through with that.
Yeah.
I, I ultimately part of that vision is to serve others, really. And you said it well. It's you if you're going to build a business, you do have to treat it like a business, and that's just the reality of it, right? That means that you have to know your numbers. Are you making a profit? How do you need to do that in a more strategic way without losing the humanity of what you do? And so, it is a matter of balancing those two worlds out, in sometimes very difficult ways. But ultimately, it does come down to serving people and helping people become who they really can be, through understanding how they utilize their time, their goals, and their habits, right? And so what that comes down to
Those
me,
moment by moment decisions, right?
absolutely, absolutely, it's the middle that builds the end,
Mm.
100%, right? And so we sometimes think, oh, the end just exists somewhere and then I arrive at it and oh, there I am. But no, it's everything that you're doing every single day to build that structure, and the byproduct of it is what you end up at the end. And so
Mhm.
that's part of that focus is no matter what you do, you're going to have to consider what you're going to do with your time, where you're going to go, aka goals, and how you're going to build all that, how you're going to do that, how you're going to go through your day by day, aka habits. And so I think those are core essentials of life. And when you know that you can leverage that and take hold of that and really be intentional about it, that's a game
Right.
changer.
Yeah. That
And so for me,
intentionality. Hmm.
absolutely, it's huge. And so for me, I think what I'd like to do ultimately is train other coaches to be able to do that. And so the original vision, was and is still to some extent, to build a coaching training academy, to be able to combine the idea of coaching and the idea of masterminds to create these concentrated groups of highly trained coaches to be able to help organizations or individuals in their path,
Hmm.
helping them get from point A to point B in their growth process, whatever that looks like, in the most strategic way
Yeah.
possible.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I love that. It's almost like creating your own certification process, your own
Yes.
training and methodology that you're instilling in others to be able to carry forth that same kind of a impact for others. So yeah, I could see a huge need for that. And I would just love to hear maybe a story or a reflection of how you've really made that or facilitated that meaningful difference for a business owner um, in this work that you're describing. Can you share maybe a little story about one of your clients that comes to mind?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to. Yeah. And so there's multiple stories that I have. And if anyone does want to look up what I do, you can find, testimonials on Google, LinkedIn, and Facebook. But one story that really stands out in my mind, is the story of a manager that, called me to come in and coach him. And his challenge was really in being more decisive, being more assertive in the areas that he needed to be, knowing how to delegate, knowing how to be able to take hold of his leadership role and be confident in that. And I worked with him in terms of understanding how all of the process of growth that he's what was going through was really a full body process. And so when you experience these feelings, it affects every part of you. It affects your physiology. It affects, your mental state, your psychological state. And so what I helped work with him on was how he could better impact that, more positively impact those aspects of who he was to be able to help change the outcome. And so I would have him go through full body rituals where I would have him stand up and I would say, okay, to your left is the vision that you have of yourself right now, how you think of yourself. And I want you to turn to your left and I want you to describe all those words, as ugly as it might be, as rough as it might be, as negative as it might be. I just want you to go through that moment and feel what that feels like. So he turned to his left and he would describe that and talk about it. And you could see his face kind of fall. And then I would stop him and say, okay, now go back to the middle. And then from the middle to your right is the ideal version of who you are, the person that is there. that we're working on, that we're growing to become like. And so he would turn to his right and start to describe all the details of who that person was.
Wow.
And you could see everything in his countenance just change when he
Sure.
realized that,
Just
oh,
like
these are
that.
both, yeah, exactly, absolutely, just like that. And so what I wanted to do is create something that's concrete for him to hold on to, where in those moments he could remind himself,
Yeah.
both of these things are maybe aspects of who I am, but what am I going to choose to really build? And we did a 3 month. Typically, I like to do 3 month contracts with my or agreements with my clients.
Mhm.
And by the end of it, he was giving me all sorts of stories of how he was able to take the initiative and take hold of the opportunities in front of him and to operate in a more confident manner. And now he wouldn't have been able to see that if it wouldn't have been through the coaching process that we were able to
Wow.
work through. And all of it was him owning it. It wasn't me telling him, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to
Right.
do this.
Right. Not
It's not that
not
there's not a place for that.
putting on armor or putting on the tough man's hat or putting on this or that. It's just allowing that
Yes.
that deeper truth to really be
Yes.
expressed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Knowing and understanding that he has the power to affect his situation. He doesn't need anyone to come in and do that for him. He has the ability to give himself permission to really make that impact and to help him untap that and unlock that. That was a
Mm-hmm.
powerful experience for both of us,
Wow.
really. And that's the most rewarding part, right? Is seeing these
Yeah.
clients come to that light bulb moment.
Just
And so
90
that's that.
days. 90 days.
Yep.
Talk about a transformation. I
Yep.
mean, that's like it's not just left to right, it's night and day,
Yes. Yes.
compared
Absolutely.
to and then the reactions and the results of being that other person that he wasn't choosing to be but defaulting
Mhm.
to be versus the person
Mhm.
that yeah, wow, that's I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So Javier, what I'm curious here. This might sound a little um strange, but we live our lives, we go through our motions, we do our best, we study,
Mhm.
we're consummate learners, teachers, inspirational forces, guide, we guide others, we do everything. I mean, we're human.
Mhm.
And, always in this sense of um, striving to build a business and doing all these different responsibilities. And sometimes things can um, be taking longer. Success doesn't happen quite the way you want.
Mhm.
I'm sure your journey, your ramp up period in building your business was like most of us, unless you had a magic wand. It was through the trenches and up over the hills and down into
Right.
the fire patch and all this.
Exactly.
So in 2020 hindsight,
Yeah.
let's say
Mhm.
we're all gathered and it's your funeral. Now this is not intended to be morbid or
Right.
anything.
Right.
It's just 2020 hindsight. You've lived your life.
Mhm.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Two things that I loved God and that I loved people.
Mm,
And those are the two things that really, I think, encapsulate and embody everything that I strive to do every single day, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whatever it might be. Those two things are the only things that matter, I think. Um, and it's one thing to say it and say you believe it, but it's a whole other thing to actually live it. And so at the end of it, I want people to see that the distance between those two things, me saying it and me doing it, was so narrow you couldn't even tell the difference.
mm,
And so that's really what I'm striving for and hoping for and working for every single day. And
yeah.
and God willing, it will be that at the end. Hopefully, I have a few more years, but you never know. Again,
Well,
right? You just never know.
absolutely. It's not like I said, I'm not, saying I'm going to be, showing up at your funeral anytime
Right,
soon here
right, right,
because you've
right, right.
already demonstrated you have 9 lives.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly. There you go.
this is you got a long life ahead of you, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just interesting to hear. And that's really, it sounds to me like the true guiding light is every day you have this beacon, this compass
Mhm.
that's directing you and allowing you to be of service in this way. So yeah,
Mhm.
very inspirational. And I believe, well, you tell me, what is the best way for people to get to know a little bit more about your approach and those kinds of things? Do you have an introductory consultation session, or what's the best next step?
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate that. So they can go to my website, www.brightviewcoaching.com. All lowercase, no spaces. All words are spelled the way they're spelled. So
Okay.
BRIGHT.
Look in the show notes,
That's right.
listeners.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. Thank you. And so they can go there, and on the homepage, the page that they're going to see as they go to the website, there's an opportunity to sign up for a strategy session, a free strategy session.
Okay.
And it's just an opportunity for them to really get an idea of what I do by talking to me and by really kind of hearing my thoughts on where they're at, and to see if there's a fit between their needs and my expertise. And there's no commitment of any kind, no cost, nothing like that. It's free, no risk at all.
Just kind of understand how their frustrations and challenges might be supported through your guidance and expertise, and just to see if it feels like a good fit.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely.
Generous, very generous of you to open up your calendar in this way. So yeah, for our listeners, just be sure to look into the show notes there, and you'll find that link to his website and that session. So, well, Javier, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed our conversation and learning about what drives you, what your vision is, and why you wake up every day and do this work in a very meaningful way that appears, from the looks of you, really fulfills and regenerates and invigorates you. So I love that, which is why I love working with entrepreneurs, because they have that sense of doing it for a bigger purpose, right?
So, yes. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, Wendy, always. And I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I wish you the best in everything you're doing. You're doing good work.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Javier. All right. Bye-bye. All right. Well, the real life transformations facilitated by experts like my guest today are truly priceless. I mean, happiness, joy, peace, love, right? These are all what each of us ultimately strives for in life. But becoming a sought after and well-paid coach or energy healer is often challenging, overwhelming, and frustrating. So if you're a heart-centered coach, expert, or energy healer who's striving for more ease, flow, and abundance, well, I've created a special gift just for you. So check out the show notes. All right. Well, this is Wendy Vaughn signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to join me for my next episode, where we'll be inspired by yet another impact maker's journey.